What up guys, and welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Christoph, and today we'll be discussing some of the weird mechanics in League of Legends. With as many champions, items, and abilities as there are in League, there are a lot of strange interactions to watch out for. Some interactions, though, make little to no sense logically, and those are the more interesting ones, which we'll cover in this video. Real quick though, as always, our question of the day is, what's the craziest interaction you've actually ever seen in one of your games? For me, I actually once saw this Poppy try to ult a Camille away from a fight, but the Camille had already shot her cables at a wall. Poppy's ult ended up landing, and then Camille actually flew super far away off Summoner's Rift and then came right back to where her cables were. It was super weird. Super spaghetti code. We're gonna cover a couple of those just like that one in this video. And as always, if you guys wanna get better at League of Legends, you know where to go. Make sure to click that description link below and go find a challenger coach right now who's online ready to help you as we speak. All right, guys, let's get right into the video. First up, let's talk about some of the more widespread general mechanics that apply to everyone. QUICKSILVER SASH is a particularly interesting case study of odd mechanics because of its functionality. For those of you who don't know, and based on the number of you who refuse to buy it in games against heavy CC, I can only assume that's most of you guys, including myself sometimes. QUICKSILVER SASH, or QSS, allows you to cleanse CC. Do you hear that? My precious little cinnamon roll carries, who I love and cherish. You can cleanse CC. That's pretty awesome, right? Buy it! Thank God I just play top lane, honestly, because, anyway. Using QSS to cleanse CC allows you to make a quick recovery and jump right back into the fight, or make your escape. In fact, if you're fast enough, you can even time the QSS right at the moment the CC lands, to be basically unaffected. This feat of precise timing is called a Captain Jack, but that's for another time. So what are the limits to QSS? Can it cleanse all forms of CC? Well, sort of. QSS cleanses most regular forms of CC with ease, but the exceptions to this rule are knockups and knockbacks. If you get hit by a knockup ability like a Malphite ult, you can't just QSS away. For some reason in the game's coding, you have to use QSS and a movement ability or flash in order to regain control of your champion, otherwise nothing will happen. We have no idea why this is the case, and understandably, a lot of people don't know about it, so it's a good way to surprise your enemies if you can pull it off. Okay, so what about knockbacks? What do you have to do to escape that, and what does that even look like? For something like a Vayne Condemn, the QSS will function as intended, and you'll stop in your tracks. For Lee Sin's ult, though, you aren't just knocked back, you're also knocked up. So you would have to use the QSS plus movement ability combo to free yourself from that. One other thing, using just the QSS won't free you from a knockup, but it does stop the game from considering you to be airborne, which means Yasuo cannot ult you. The more you know, the better off you'll be. Speaking of Yasuo, there are, of course, other strange rules for QSS cleansing things that don't immediately come to mind as conventional CC. People like to think of Yasuo's ult as a knockup, but it's actually just coded as a type of suspension effect. QSSing a Yasuo ult will place you right back on the ground. You can QSS Nocturne's ult Darkness, you can QSS your way out of Mord's Shadow Realm, the list goes on. Oh, and please note the Summoner spell cleanse doesn't work in any of the aforementioned scenarios. We here at ProGuides are not legally responsible for any lost or wasted summoners, thank you for understanding. Our next interesting set of mechanics is based in the grounded effect. Being grounded by something like Cassiopeia's Miasma supposedly stops you from utilizing any kind of movement ability, but this isn't completely true. When Riot created the grounded effect, they coded it as being a root, except it still allows player movement. For those of you who don't know, a root is the lowest form of hard CC because a rooted target can still cast abilities and auto-attack. For example, Jarvan doesn't care about being grounded because Jarvan doesn't care about being rooted because Jarvan doesn't really care about much at all. If he's hit by a Morg's Q, rather than wait a few decades for it to end, he can still use his E plus Q combo to flag and drag himself right on through. Therefore, the same follows suit with grounding. Additionally, the grounded effect will cancel channeled abilities that result in movement, like Fiddle's ult, or Tahm Kench's ult, or the Teleport Summoner spell. However, if the user of such an ability is patient, they can cast it on top of whatever's causing the grounded effect. they just can't let it interrupt them. One other interesting thing you can attempt is using Cleanse or QSS at the same time as your flash to escape. It's possible, but it's hard and your timing has to be precise. Now let's get on to some more champion-specific oddities. Let's give KALISTA the attention that no one else really wants to, let's be honest. KALISTA is an ADC that Riot's had an extremely hard time balancing over the years, to the point where their decision was to just intentionally leave her on the weaker end. This is because her kit is simply too valuable in competitive play, so she would be busted in pro play, although she appeared balanced or even weak in solo queue. I mean, she has her engage, her mobility is just insane. If you're really good at KALISTA, you are going to dominate. Interesting choice by the champion designer, but hey, it's the balance team's problem, right? One of the pieces of her kit that makes her so weird though, it's her passive, Martial Poise. Aside from giving you early onset carpal tunnel, Martial Poise makes it so that KALISTA can auto-attack and hop around simultaneously. Pretty neat in theory, except for one thing. This ties KALISTA's attack speed to her movement speed. Think about that for a moment. Her attack speed is gated by her movement speed. Imagine you're firing a gun, but you can't pull the trigger because you're really slow. Usain Bolt though, legendary gunman by these rules, basically a Jamaican John Wick. Jokes aside though, the awkwardness of this mechanic does not stop there. Think of KALISTA's movement speed as a ceiling for her attack speed. Now cast literally any slow on KALISTA, you've effectively lowered the ceiling of her attack speed, making slows extra effective against her. On the plus side, the inverse is also true. If KALISTA has an ally that can boost her movement speed, it raises the ceiling and she can attack to her full potential. Of course, the other answer here is that KALISTA doesn't have to utilize this passive. She could just stand still and hurl javelins to her heart's content, but you go ahead and play a game of ADC where you don't kite at all, and then let me know how that goes. There are moments where it's the smart thing to do, but it's not a great idea most of the time. While KALISTA is arguably the most interesting case here, other champions have their fair share of involvement in Rift's marvels. Let's talk about Lee Sin. Lee Sin has a lockout from his ult built into his Q. What this means is that while Lee Sin is following his second Q, he is unable to ult a target. Unless, wait for it, unless he activates his second Q during a ward hop. If he's in the middle of the ward hop's dash, then activates his second Q, it removes the lock out from his ult and it enables him to perform a drive-by ult in the middle of his Q dash. No idea why, but hey, it doesn't hurt the game, I guess. HEXFLASH is a summoner spell that mostly sees use from engaged supports looking to cheese for a little extra distance, but a few other champions can use it in interesting ways. Camille and Lissandra, for instance. Camille can charge HEXFLASH after pressing E to a wall, and then release HEXFLASH and then E to gain extra distance toward champions. Lissandra can cast her E, charge HEXFLASH, then cast E again to teleport to her claw and release HEXFLASH for some extra distance. Another interesting one is that Teemo and Singed can apply their poison for use by Cassiopeia. This one actually makes a good amount of sense, but it's weird because Riot usually doesn't honor this type of logical thought. Being able to get her empowered Twin Fang off of allied poison can come in pretty clutch. But it does seem a little bit weird that Anivia players can't get empowered frostbite damage off their allies' icy effects anymore, but whatever. But according to Riot, it's okay for the Snake Lady to team up with that little PTSD monster and a chemist who prefers the taste test over the scientific method, but they patched it a long time ago, so good for you, Riot, for keeping it consistent. Not that this is the only example of this kind of logical inconsistency in League, but this one feels a little bit, strange. On the subject of hitboxes, BARD'S Q has one of the most infuriating hitboxes in the game, but a lot of players have trouble putting their finger on exactly why that is. For those of you that don't know, BARD'S Q is a skill shot that hits one target, then tries to connect with another target or piece of terrain directly behind the first. If it succeeds, then both targets are stunned. What makes BARD'S Q unique is that it doesn't wait to actually connect with a second target before it decides if it's going to stun. As soon as it makes contact with the first target, it basically takes a snapshot and instantly checks for a target behind the first. If there is a second target there, it doesn't matter if flashes get used, that stun is coming out. This is part of why players against a well-practiced Bard can be frustrating, and learning to abuse this mechanic is part of what makes a good Bard player in the first place, rare as they are. Speaking of frustrating skill shots, it's time for everyone's absolute favoriteest mechanic of all time. You know, you love to hate it. It's lollipopping. You know when you're running away from a Nautilus and you somehow manage to dodge the hook that's already half the lane wide, except you must have a lot of iron in your diet because that big ol' anchor is magnetized to your body, and now you're deadsies. This happens because of the way some skill shots are coded. The search for a target in a small circle at the end of their natural casting line. Even if the indicator would show you that it isn't supposed to hit, if there's a target in whatever that invisible circle is, it's getting grabbed. Lollipopping is single-handedly responsible for 10 of my broken keyboards. There's no denying though that it feels really bad when you think you've got the blue suede shoes, then get dragged to your gray screen instead. The only other mechanic that people get equally heated about is minion block, but those little guys get ignored enough as it is, so maybe it's best that they get to feel like they matter. Kind of like top laners. I'm allowed to make that joke since I can barely play any other role. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know which strange thing you found in the video to be most interesting. Just put it down in the comments. And as always, if you guys want to get better at League of Legends, go to ProGuides.com. Go find your challenger coach right now. That's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and I'll see you on the Rift.